This time on Art Rocks, how one artist is using symbolic imagery to unlock literary secrets. Dance's power to educate and entertain. An American museum's treasure trove of European masterpieces. A California sculpture redefining the vessel aesthetic. That's all about to happen on Art Rocks.
Art Rocks is made possible by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
Hello and thank you for joining us for Art Rocks with me, James Fox Smith, publisher of Country Roads magazine. Please meet a Louisiana artist who has developed a vocabulary of symbolic images, which she's using to encode messages in her art. Lake Charles's Heather Ryan Kelley shares the history of vanitas painting and why it captivates her. But the traditional imagery of vanitas is far from all that is going on in Heather Kelley's work. Come look beneath the surface with us.
Vanitas painting is a convention of painting that uses objects in a symbolic way. Vanitas symbols would include things that are fleeting, like a flower that will quickly fade, or a soap bubble, maybe even things like money or beauty, or all of those things that are transitory and temporary. And so the paintings were really meant to be like a moral prod to you, to focus on what's important. And I'm interested in vanitas painting just because it has this whole tradition to it, but also I'm interested in developing my own vanitas symbols. Objects are important to me, as you can see from looking around my house. The objects are like protagonists acting out the ideas for me. And so I'll have objects that I've either found or have been given to me, and I'll use them in my paintings to work out ideas that I'm thinking about. And the other category besides object painting are paintings that are related to the writings of James Joyce. And for the last 20 years or so, I've been thinking my way through Finnegan's Wake, which is a complicated and rich source as a point of departure, really. It all started when I was a freshman at Southern Methodist University. My literature class, we read Portrait of the Artist and Dubliners, and I love those books. And I remember one day my teacher said, well, if you liked Portrait, then you'll probably like Ulysses. And if you like Ulysses, then there's Finnegan's Wake. And he said it's almost impossible to grasp and get your mind around. And so those words stayed with me for years and years. I finally did come around to reading Ulysses, and I loved it. I heard my grandmother's quirky phrases in it, my Irish grandmother, right, and all her scatological sense of humor and her fear of thunder, all of that was present in Ulysses. When I was reading Ulysses, my first instinct was to do these drawings. They were related to the text, but they're not exactly illustrational. Ulysses plays with style. Most novels, there's a story that goes forward, their characters and all of that. But Joyce's work is so very predetermined. In a way, it's about itself. So the series of paintings allowed me to play with artistic styles and reference different time periods in that little series. And then, when I kind of worked my way through Ulysses, I thought, well, then there's Finnegan's Wake. And so I turned to that. And I've been caught in the web of Finnegan's Wake. It's a remarkable book. And Finnegan's Wake, even more so, is about itself. If you know about Ulysses or Finnegan's Wake, you'll get a certain kind of content from the work, but I think it's important for the work to stand on its own. The illustration tends to be very dependent upon the text, and you have to know the text in order to appreciate it, but I'm interested in making works that have a resonance in themselves. On the very first page of Finnegan's Wake, there's a 100-letter thunder word, and so I did a series of prints based upon the 10 thunder words. That cycle of prints is in the collection of the New York Public Library and the Harry Ransom Center over at the University of Texas. I was able to show some of the works based upon Finnegan's Wake last summer in Antwerp at the Royal Academy of Art, connected to the University of Antwerp, and then the summer before I started work in Toronto, also at a Joyce conference there. I like to work with oil just because it's an expressive medium. It gives you some time to play. You can model the surfaces in a way that's harder to do with acrylic. This painting is based upon a couple of sources. A very early memory of mine is I was born in New Haven, Connecticut, and I was sitting on the driveway in the wintertime, and there was snow on the driveway. I was probably 3 or 4 years old, quite early, and I remember moving away the snow and seeing the rocks of the driveway beneath the snow that was there, and just the appearance of that I thought was lovely. It struck me as a child, and that memory is still with me. There are milagros in the painting, and there are little votive elements that are associated with Mexican religious worship, and they're often attached to a statue and so forth. But the eye and the ear are a reference to Finnegan's Wake, because it's something that you need to read it with your eyes but hear it with your ears while you're reading it. It's very almost physically interactive of a book. The rabbit doesn't have necessarily symbolic overture, but I like just the appearance of the rabbit. Also, there's a little book milagro that references the many books that I love to read. Finnegan's Wake, that painting is a vanitas painting, and it has a clock in it. Oftentimes there are timepieces that are referenced as subject matter in vanitas paintings. The clock in this piece is one that was from my family, but also there's a hand of blessing that is on my studio wall. And there's a vase that belonged to my grandmother. So there's a lot of family history that's pulled together in the painting. On the right-hand passage of the painting, there's a black and white passage that's based upon a photograph of Phoenix Park. There's an obelisk in the background and water in the foreground. The painting that seems to be a purse is called Her Devotions, and it has a lot of religious medals and ribbons, and there are milagros on the surface of the purse or this bag. It's a woven, kind of a sisal bag, I believe is the material, and it's inside of my closet in my room. It's almost like a shrine inside of there, and so it's a very faithful rendering of this bag. I've been working on a series for a long time, paintings of books that are trompe-l'oeil, and the term trompe-l'oeil means fool your eye. I render the books about twice life size, but I try to render them with as much information about the surface as possible. So this book is something I've found. I actually probably found it in a trash pile, and it was utterly destroyed. The cover is torn, the binding is coming off of it, but it has this beautiful kind of form to it, and so I rendered the book in all of its kind of sad condition, and that's part of the series. In addition to painting, I make artist books, and what artist books is simply artwork that takes the form of the medium of a book. This one is a hardcover accordion book called A Battle. I initially made a collage, and this is a digital version of that. But the accordion is a wonderful sculptural form of a book. It can be held in your hand and read almost as a codex book, or it can be set up on the table and viewed as a sculpture. I have blank books. This is a book that is related to Finnegan's Wake. Storiella is actually shown in Antwerp last year. There's a box of books called The Midden Heap in relation to Joyce. So most of the work that I've done regarding Finnegan's Wake, there's a section of paintings, but a large portion that's related to artist books.
Seeing artists on TV is great, but they and their works are better in the flesh. So here are some of our picks for notable exhibits coming soon to museums or galleries near you. To learn more about these and other events in Louisiana, keep your eyes peeled for a copy of Country Roads magazine. And while we're at it, LPB's Art Rocks website features an archive of previous episodes, so to see any episode again, just log on to lpb.org. The Repertory Dance Theatre in Salt Lake City, Utah has been lit up by the power of dance since its founding in 1966. To further its mission, the company offers various educational programs that touch the lives of tens of thousands of students and teachers each year. We visit one Salt Lake school, Northwest Middle, to learn more.
Kids need a way to express. Yes, it is very important that they're able to speak and articulate intelligently, but let's be real, there's moments where we're not comfortable doing that. And kids need an outlet, and to be able to move and to be able to be creative and express in a different way is so important and vital.
I think it's important to teach dance for many reasons. I think one is I personally feel that you have to teach kids how to use their bodies and not be afraid to move.
We like to think that we ignite the creative voice in students of all ages. And through dance, they can tell their stories, they can create, they can explore. Students can develop all kinds of attributes that help them become complex thinkers, imaginative, leaders as well as followers. They are really able to develop themselves and articulate who they are through dance.
Your knees. 1 foot.
Repertory Dance Theatre, RDT, was founded in 1966 as a professional modern dance repertory company, which was unusual and daring at the time, very revolutionary, and we're still revolutionary.
Generally, we serve around 25 to 27,000 students a year, and that is within the breadth of our programs. So whether we are going to them or they are coming here to see a show or something, that's every program. We offer creative movement classes, which is where we go into the school and we teach one classroom at a time. Creative movement session, which can be anywhere from a half an hour to 45 minutes, and that kind of depends on the school's schedule. I leave that up to them. We also offer assemblies where the students will all come into the gym and the company will come and do a performance. We also do in the schools professional development for the teachers themselves if they're interested in doing more movement in their classrooms. And then they're also welcome to come here to the theater to see Voyage or whatever show we are doing that year, geared towards elementary students. And with that, we offer a study guide and also some different ideas for them to take back to their school and use inside the classroom.
I've been working with RDT since 2004, but more closely in the last 6 years since I've been here at Northwest. In my time here at Northwest, RDT has also asked me to be on the board to help with the educational component, and RDT works very closely with my students throughout the year.
When I took the class at school, at first it felt kind of uncomfortable, but then as we went on, I was getting really used to it. I was having a lot of fun, and the best part of it was when we got to go on field trips, or when we all were able to like when the teacher had us make our own beats, and then when we all presented it together, it sounded really cool.
I like that they don't treat us as like we're little kids. They treat us as if we're adults and that we can handle our own, and that they'll be like, here's a choreography, I want you to learn it and show me how you do it, and maybe we can make some changes to adjust for you and what type of human you are.
All of the teachers were like really encouraging and very like energetic, so like that brought a lot of the kids, including me, up a lot. So like we had more confidence in ourselves to dance in front of all those people.
You need something that'll be like there to be like, oh, I get to go to dance class now and I get to be my own person, I get to come up with some choreography, I get to use my own music, and that's what we do here at Northwest Middle School, is we make sure that we get to come up with our own dances. And our teacher, she's just like, here, I'll pick your music and you can just throw whatever you want in it. And I'll come check and make sure it's something different that you're not used to, and I want to push you further than you usually are. That's why I think the arts are important, because it pushes you to do things that you're not used to.
I also appreciate the fact that RDT is an incredibly diverse company, and their dancers come from all different walks of life. My school is very diverse. I think we have 29 countries represented and 32 languages that are spoken. And RDT has Caucasian, African American, Latin American dancers, and my students really need to be able to see people who look like them.
After we leave a school, we always leave them with as many ideas as I can possibly give them physically, in their email, in their minds, through just experience, as I can. And then I just hope that they will take one or two ideas and try them out, see what happens.
Our world needs dance, our world needs art. RDT is at the forefront of pushing for just that. We all know that the arts are at the very top of the chopping block when it's time to get rid of something in education. And what I absolutely love about RDT is they are there to say no and push and make sure that our students are being served the way that they need to be served. And I will be supportive of RDT and what they stand for to the day I die.
Well, you know, we really believe in the power of dance. It can change lives. It can inspire students. It can help them connect with the world at large. It can help validate who they are. And all you really need to do is to go into a theater and be open to the ideas, the music, the language of movement. And we know that we can change lives through dance.
The Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, Massachusetts recently received a transformative gift. Over 100 outstanding 17th century examples of Dutch and Flemish works in oil by some of the masters of that genre. These pieces, which represent the Dutch Golden Age, constitute the largest gift of European paintings in the museum's history. Take a look at how curators reacted to this amazing announcement.
They, together, by any standard, are a collection of masterpieces. And with ours, the collection that exists here, we can say the sum is truly greater than the parts.
Museum of Fine Arts director Matthew Teitelbaum is talking about the collection of Dutch and Flemish art now hanging on his museum's walls. Flowers so vivid you long for their scent. Still lifes that appear as though the table has just been set and thoroughly enjoyed. Landscapes with distinctly Dutch skies of blue. They appeared virtually overnight as a promised gift to the museum. It was momentous enough for a ribbon cutting.
How significant is this gift for the Museum of Fine Arts?
I don't think we can overstate the importance of this gift on so many levels. It makes our collection of Dutch and Flemish painting doubled in size almost.
The largest gift of European painting in the museum's history, the work is from the Dutch Golden Age, spanning the 17th century. And it includes what's considered one of the finest Rembrandts still in private hands, says MFA senior curator Ronnie Baer.
So when you come to see Alcha, you will see why Rembrandt is one of the great artists of all time. On the one hand, he's showing us his talent as a portraitist and how he can capture an essence of a person, and on the other, his virtuosity with a brush.
The promised gift of 113 works comes from two Massachusetts families who spent decades assembling their collections. Rose-Marie Van Otterlo says that as she and her husband began acquiring, their criteria was simple. Find the best work, buy the best artists.
We always thought that we were just temporary caretakers of this art, and we've always known that at one point we would give it away. The MFA deserves it. It's a wonderful institution here in Boston. It's well known around the world.
With the paintings also comes the funds to establish a Center for Netherlandish Art at the MFA, which fellow donor Susan Weatherby says should make the museum an international destination for study.
To bring this critical mass, really, of paintings that really do complement one another. And I think that this will unfold as people study the collections.
Until then, the works are warm and welcoming enough that you can practically curl up with them.
California has produced its fair share of groundbreaking artists. During 70 years spent actively creating in the San Francisco Bay Area, ceramicist Ruth Rippon has influenced the whole evolution of vessel-based ceramics and is often credited with elevating pottery works from everyday functional objects to sculptural fine art. Rippon shares her story with us.
My mother was very instrumental in my becoming an artist. I was either to be an artist or a stenographer if the art was not successful. Well, it must have been exciting for me because I never gave it up. It was just always a challenge and a pleasant one.
I knew very little about Ruth when I got started on this exhibition. When I started looking at Ruth's body of work, I was very surprised and impressed at the diversity and the technical expertise it takes to produce such a wide variety of beautiful objects. She did everything that you can do with clay, pretty much.
I was always aware of the negative space of the object, like a plate or a bottle, as well as the positive space that you create when you attempt to design the surface of a piece. I had not really touched much clay until I went to the California College of Arts and Crafts in Oakland. When I was living in San Francisco, I did a lot of walking to school and other places, and in North Beach especially, I'd noticed the two women sitting, usually older women, well endowed, and just talking, being together, and that inspired a whole series of works.
I think some of her large stoneware female figures are incredibly beautifully done, and they're not just technically beautifully done, but there's obviously a great deal of warmth and feeling that has gone into those figures.
I think the harmony in her work stems from the joy in Ruth herself, so I think that leads to the harmony that you see throughout her body of work. Even though there's an incredible diversity, Ruth is very much a storyteller in most of her work.
Here's your fish.
Yeah, that's good. Fish and water were important parts of my designs. Each one is individual. I did a couple of political pieces. I made a hand with a finger pointing that I called you, and like the army wants you. I guess that some of the mythical ones were the most challenging, trying to express like a round plate. I guess I start working and then one spatial part of the piece suggests another.
It's very important for a museum to carefully document the work of the artists that live in its region.
Wow, it looks really good.
I would say that Ruth is greatly responsible for the vibrant tradition of clay that we are lucky to have in Northern California. She laid the groundwork for the greater appreciation of clay as a fine art, especially in this region. She started working at Sac State in 1956, just about 9 years after the school was established. This was at a time when, at least in the United States, clay was still considered by most a craft. It wasn't really associated with high art.
Ruth was, particularly as an educator, not just a skilled artist, not someone who could just teach her students physically how to do things, but it was how to bring commitment and joy to the process.
The idea for this one, I was taking a sun bath in my backyard. And I just was enjoying the warmth of the sun. I always thought of them as my children. Since I had none of my own, I thought that they were my children, my students. I taught what I was taught and hoped that the message got to the students and showed up in their work. Not just like my work, but creating their own style of working.
Ruth's legacy as an educator and artist set an example for young artists to let them know that they can do their own thing.
I think, quite honestly, every piece in the show she did for herself. She was the person she had to please. And then there's always the hope that, yeah, somebody else will be pleased too.
But this was fun to do too, the carving the plaster. I just wanted to express my own thoughts about things. It meant something for me to make it, and I was glad it was appreciated enough for someone to want to have it. That's the way I feel. I have done enough. I'm old enough, and it's not easy work, you know. Clay is very dense, very hard, heavy to work with, but I enjoyed every minute of it.
And that is that for this edition of Art Rocks. But never mind. Remember, art lover, you can always watch episodes of the show at lpb.org/artrocks. And if that's not enough for you, Country Roads magazine is a great resource for enriching your cultural life with art, cuisine, escapes and events all across the state. So until next week, I'm James Fox Smith, and thank you for watching.